Single day when you don't have any interesting moments on British TV channels. There is never a dull moment on British TV. So yesterday we highlighted in the case of that Norwegian Afghan journalist who did a fantastic job interviewing the Israeli government spokesperson. And as I said, that interview should be played in every journalism school, and that should also be played to every journalist working for the BBC. I think they need a refresher as well. So anyway, so today the one interview that caught my attention was the interview of Workers' Party MP George Galloway, who appeared on ITV's program Good Morning Britain, presented by Richard Madeley and Susanna Reid. Richard Madeley, we know, he has found himself in the eye of storm during the Gaza crisis because of his some comments. Susanna Reid, formerly with the BBC, remember she used to present BBC's breakfast show. Now she is a co-presenter of Good Morning Britain. Now, that interview that lasted for 10 minutes, and I'm going to play almost the entire interview in chunks so that you understand why I'm playing it, because to me, there are so many problems with that interview. That the way these two individuals conducted the interview, I think to say that it was in poor taste as a journalist would be an understatement. Like yesterday's interview was should be showcased in every journalism school to teach students as to how you should be doing the interview. Today's interview is the one that should be played in every journalism school to teach how not to do the interview. So these two individuals, they welcome him by saying that how he's been a divisive figure, George Galloway. And according to Richard Madeley, he has been party hopping. Why? Because originally he was with the Labour, then he was thrown out of the Labour Party by Tony Blair, who we know, the war criminal, who led the coalition attacks on Iraq, killing more than 1 million civilians, innocent people, on false ground. We know that he lied to British public in the Parliament. These are all facts, not figment of anybody's imagination. He was responsible for throwing George Galloway out because he had opposed the war on Iraq. Now then he went on to form a party called Respect Party, and more recently he has formed another political party called Workers' Party. How is that party hopping, and how is that the key element of introducing your guest? So by that standard, by that logic, should we not call Richard Madeley and Susanna Reid channel hoppers? Because Richard Madeley used to do a show on Channel 4. Now he is on ITV. Susanna Reid used to be on the BBC for many, many years. Same time when I worked for the BBC. And now she is on ITV. So can we introduce them to say that these two are channel hoppers? And then interview big. Look at her face. With so much of disgust for her guest. Why do you invite somebody if you hate that person, if you don't like that person? I mean, you start your interview with something that happened. In fact, if anybody, you should have been questioning Rishi Sunak. I mean, the moment, that address from the 10 Downing Street is reserved for national calamity or something momentous. If the government is falling, if he's resigning, or if he's become the Prime Minister. Not to react to somebody's election, in a by-election, just because you don't like that person, just because that person is critical of the regime that you support, the genocidal regime of Israel that you support. So if anybody who should have been in the dock the day he addressed the nation, and even today, if she felt so strongly about revisiting that, can somebody tell me how is it a bad thing to represent 3 different parties? What was so bad about George Galloway representing 3 different parties in his political career? Were they racist parties? Were they communal parties? Were they Islamophobic or anti-Semitic parties? They were mainstream parties recognized by Madeley actually spoke the truth. So that is the pain. The pain is that why you here to, in his words, screw things for the Labour. Because at the end of the day, Labour is the carbon copy of Conservative, and both happen to be the great friends of Israel. So, why do you want to come and spoil the party for Labour? We want to have an alternative government which continues to support the genocidal regime of Israel. That is the pain.
And you were cutting, which was from Rishi Sunak, and you dismissed that as well. So
right. So now this doesn't work now. This doesn't work. Saddam Hussein propaganda also falls flat on their faces. So now this woman comes back with Rishi Sunak speech again. She again brings Rishi Sunak. So now we are in the fifth or sixth minutes of the interview. And she hasn't forgotten what Rishi Sunak had to say. As if in George Galloway. I don't know why George Galloway did not repeat what he had told the Sky News reporter on the night of his victory. That as if Rishi Sunak is Moses. That he should be given so much of importance. Anyway, so this is what George Galloway had to say. Fair, he did not dismiss every question that you asked Susanna. You only asked one question till now. And you repeated the same question again. And he has every right to dismiss, because Rishi Sunak maybe got to you, but not to everybody else. The nail on the head. NHS is dead. I have said it many a times in my videos. I have been asked to wait for 15 months just to see a doctor, a specialist. I know a person who has got the appointment for her child with the pediatrician after waiting for 2 years. And these morons, they are bothered about what happened 30 years ago about a meeting between George Galloway and Saddam Hussein. And that meeting did not result in the murder of over 1 million people. What resulted in the murder of over 1 million innocent people was the illegal war carried out by Tony Blair. Do they have courage? Do they have balls to go and grill Tony Blair?
False statements standing on steps in Downing Street.
This is the third time she's again come back to what Rishi Sunak had to say. That's how hollow she is. That's how bereft of ideas and creativity she is. That's how poor her research is. That she's got a guest, and the only question that she thinks she can ask him is about what Rishi Sunak had to say immediately after his election. Now, most worrying part of this interview came in the end, when George Galloway reveals that how he was asked about his religious faith by Richard Madeley before the interview started. That's sickening. Why was he interested about his Muslim faith? What if he was indeed Muslim? What if indeed he had embraced Islam? What's so wrong about it? But it is important to build that narrative. It is important to justify his support for Palestine and to demonize him. Would you ask a Jewish MP, there are so many Jewish MPs, when they come to your studio, do you ask them backstage whether they are Jewish or whether indeed they are Christians or Hindus? Why is it just Muslims? Why would you be interested in whether somebody has converted to Islam or not? Why only Islam? Because that matters here in the current crisis. Because the moment you can establish that he is Muslim, it's easy for you to discredit his argument or his support for Palestinian people. This is sickening. And these are the people who are there on the airwaves of the mainstream TV channels in this country, in a supposedly developed secular country. These people have got away with their disgusting behavior. I think it's time to expose their dirty practices. That's not journalism. That's not the journalism that I learned. And that's not the journalism that I practiced in my time in the BBC for 12 years. This is propaganda, and this is sickening propaganda coupled with Islamophobia. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.